Right, guys, welcome back. I hope you had a great week. As you can realise with sitting with me, we don't have Ollie today unless he's miraculously changed. Ollie's got some interesting projects on the go, and last minute had to change arrangements. So we decided to stick with the podcast, and I've got a good friend, colleague, Rachel Casey, with me today. So we decided we'd do a guest, and so welcome, Rach.
Hi.
This is new.
It is exciting.
So we've kind of derailed it a little bit from our game plan with Ollie, but on short notice, Rachel and I were talking at lunchtime today, and we just the conversation went on to along the concept of time out for ourselves, a busy time of the year with Christmas coming up, the idea of people taking out time out for self-love, which the concept we explained or we're talking about. So what is that for you? What do you mean by that?
I think it's putting yourself first above all others.
Yeah.
Which for me took a long while to grasp that, and I think it was through having children. As a mum, you always put everyone else first. And it wasn't until probably Liam, so my youngest, was about 2, that I thought I've got to stop being superwoman and I've got to start looking after myself. And it's not selfish, it's totally necessary.
Yeah, we all say it, and we say it certainly within the healthcare. You know, you've got to look after yourself first. You can't look after the baby unless you're eating properly, or look after yourself. But it's really hard. It must be, certainly from the modern day mom, I think, is under huge pressure of that. I've got to do everything. I've got to do it right. Am I doing it right? There's this self-critical element to it. But I think society has changed. We were talking earlier today about, I don't think that necessarily the new mom or the young family have that same support of the community. Yeah. So they kind of taking the reins and doing everything, and at the end of the day they're knackered. Yeah. They're not sleeping well. They've got all these pressures, the financial pressure, changing work status. And I do think moms particularly, but the family, I think the dynamics change, and that we put ourselves, especially when you've got that newborn baby, it's that unconditional love takes over, that at all means I'm going to protect, nurture. But I think we suddenly forget that we need to nurture ourselves.
Yeah. But our kids are similar ages. We've been there when you have that special time when you've got this tiny little being that totally depends on you, and you do put their needs first, and then it's down the line when you do think, crikey, how did we get through that first few stages? Yeah. And then I found that I certainly looked at, because you are knackered all the time, and there's no one that can prepare you for that lack of sleep. But as you get a life back a bit, and I think it's important for dads as well, that you do think, something happens that makes you think, I have got to put my needs first. And
also I think the important message is that our kids are also learning from that.
Yeah.
They're learning from us of what does mom and dad do.
They put themselves first, don't they?
They're very good at doing that, but I think somewhere down the line then, we become parents. I grew up in a situation that my mom and my dad had time to themselves as well as together. Probably because the society made it easier. It was easy for my dad to have time out for themselves, and mom was always been there. But in the modern day context, we have this balance of we're always short of time, but we've got to try and make some time for us. So how can, in a modern day context, how can we do that? What does that look like? What have you found that either works for you or...
It's finding what works for you, isn't it? For me, one of the best time outs is walking the dog.
Yeah.
Being out in nature. I often put things on my Facebook. It was freezing cold the other day, but it was just beautiful and stunning, and just stopping and looking. Okay, so quite often have to walk the dog in rush time, but no phone on, just listening to nature, just connecting with the dog, connecting with yourself.
Yeah.
Your thoughts were around, you can prepare yourself for the day. For me, that is a really good time out. And then, so that started several years ago. We got the dog. That I recognised that when I had time out to walk the dog, that was when I felt far more chilled for the rest of the day. It was almost kind of like pressing stop and just...
And we know from a chiropractic and a neurological functional perspective that as soon as you're starting to do a bit of walking, you're getting fresh air, you're getting some sunlight in the eyes, you're changing brain activity, you're creating endorphins. So that whole element of feeling good, the wellness aspect of that comes through. An interesting thing which I found also is with the advent of technology, there's that element of I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that, but people are quite easy to find the time to sit on YouTube for half an hour, sit on Facebook and things, and with a quick little flick of an app, you've got things like Headspace now, which I know Michelle, who works with us, is a great supporter of. I've dabbled that, but I even find just going to YouTube, you go into YouTube and put 5-minute relaxation, guided meditation, relaxation, breathing techniques, and that. It's accessible out there.
Which then leads into other ones, because the YouTube then leads you into other ones, and before you know it, you've probably done 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And technology can go against it, but can work. I've used the Headspace before, which I think is brilliant. The first time I came across Headspace was on a flight back from the States, and they had one specifically for sleeping on a flight.
Yeah. And
so I listened to that, and out of the 4 of us, I was the one that stepped off that plane feeling more refreshed.
Yeah.
Just by zoning in and listening to that quite hypnotic voice and just taking you on a bit of a journey. It's powerful stuff. And
for some people, sports, hobbies can be a big thing. In many ways, they are more time consuming. But I think also families or partners or so can sit down and it's kind of almost installing that confidence and saying, listen, this is what's going on for me. This is important. I'd like this time out.
Yeah.
But I think society is changing, but I still think there's a lot of pressure or that stigma of if I have a time out for myself, I'm either lazy or I'm being selfish or I feel guilty. There's a lot of parents who carry this guilt element or this it seems a lot more with the stay-at-home mom or dad that I'm almost like can I justify that I go and do this and do that, and I think as a society we need to change that. Because it is about, at some stage, I'm looking after myself. Now, if you're looking after yourself and you're down at the pub and you're not coming home late, then that's a different story.
Yeah.
But I'm looking after myself, and then the rest of the family own that as well.
Yeah.
So this is mom's time out. She's going to go and play tennis. This is dad's time out. He goes and plays golf. We as a family on a Sunday go out and walk.
Yeah.
So you can also do it together, but it's also sometimes time to have some moment out. And that can also mean that your kids own it. So I noticed with my son, my older son Josh, we've had then conversations along the lines of what is meditation, what's the benefit on that, and so they learn that actually it is all right to take time out and that, and we change that concept.
But they have busy, stressful lives as well. I mean, Josh has just gone through his GCSEs. There is a lot of pressure on kids, and we know that they're on the phones all day, they're just wired into something all the time, and I often look at teenagers and think they're just like younger versions of everyone. That, you know, people go to work, so they're tuned into the radio and being bombarded with stuff.
Yep.
And not necessarily positive stuff in the news. You know, it's not very often you turn on the news and it's good news. So you're getting that in, and then you're getting to work, and then it's full on, and then you're driving home with that, and then for some, sitting in front of the TV all night and whatever, and never switching that brain off. And I do look at kids and think they're doing the same. So I think we're not only doing ourselves a good service, but we are teaching our kids that it is important to press stop.
And I think also with kids, especially teenagers, they actually do that. They have time out, but they have time out stimulating themselves. So they have time out on gaming, they have time out on tablets, which is bombarding and actually amplifying and creating more whiz. To get kind of technical, they stimulate in a lot of the emotional centers, and so that they are actually not switching off. They're having time out, but they're having the quantity, but not quality time out. So they're not resting the nervous system, they're not recharging. Whereas things like visualization, meditation, yoga, all these things stimulate a different part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, which helps them to actually inhibit and dampen down that emotional flight or flight side. So they're actually really good at getting the time, but they're not getting the right lack of stimulus. They're not getting the quality of it all. And I think that somewhere along the line, they need to be learning that. As teenagers, they need to be learning coping mechanisms.
So who do they learn from?
Well, this is the big question. So most of it is they're going to be influenced by peer pressures. They're going to be influenced by school, the school setup, and then parents. And if they realize that coping mechanisms of time out means you go to the pub, or you have a couple of drinks, or you zone out and just watch TV. I'm relaxing, I'm watching TV. For the nervous system, that's still stimulation. So they're learning that to relax, you've got to stimulate yourself. Whereas the idea of from a young age, the concept of meditation would be phenomenal, because it not only training something which they can take on through the later life, but it's going to benefit them. They're more relaxed. They can visualize, even in sport, they can visualize, they can do guided meditation. And when we start understanding from a neurological perspective how we can facilitate the brain, it would be great that something like meditation and that was really taught. And that
for me, it's also about connection. It's connecting with who you are. And I would have loved to have had that concept when I was a teenager.
I never grew up with that concept.
And so I kind of dabble a bit with that with the kids, but it's even things like going to have a bath and locking the door, and it's time out, leave me alone, this is my time. And I quite often listen to a meditation when I'm in the bath, and I always say to my gang, I don't want to hear screaming out on the Xbox, I don't want to hear the phone go, you know. And so, and for me, that is, it doesn't have to be, you know, when people say, oh, you meditate, and they think, oh, you're sitting there going...
Well, that's what I was going to say, because some people have this concept of, I can't meditate, or, oh, meditation, that's a bit far out. And what they really actually don't realize, they already do meditation. They already meditate to a certain degree when they're unwinding, ready to get into sleep. And it's not a case of, I can't do meditation. It's a bit like someone saying, I can't sing. You know, everyone can sing, but they might not sing well, but you can train that. Same with meditation, and it's the guided meditation, I think, is brilliant, because everyone can follow a story, and they found that the little chattering monkey goes off and thinks about the shopping list and the email and the work, and then you just bring that back. And I think people mistake the concept of meditation is that's what you shouldn't do. But everyone does it, and it's quietening that monkey and bringing it back and having the benefit on that.
And the more you do it, the better you get at it. But
and the more you benefit from it. And I find that when I've do meditation and done it, I kind of go, 10-minute meditation, 10 minutes, and suddenly you find it's over, and you go, where's that time gone? And you realize that you have changed the brain activity. You know, when they've measured different waves of the brain, it changes, and it's something that I'd really encourage many people to do. And if we can, encourage them to introduce kids into the concept, even if they don't take it up, they at least planting a seed. And when they start perhaps seeing that, or even just going for a walk, and kids learn, and then they want to be part of it. You know, a bit like doing yoga and that. So it'll be really interesting. I'd love to know from everyone else, what do you do for time out? What is the things that you find that balances out, reconnects us with who we are? Guilt-free, or you're one who kind of says, I like the idea, but I really feel that, I do feel that guilt. how can we change that? Then let us know. And next week we'll have Ollie back, and we've got some things, other concepts. One of them, which is a really interesting one, which is going to be along sleep lines. Some things in the new year about how can we goal set. What's it like of going on to diets and dealing with other people's approaches to diets and what they think of you. So we've got a lot of concepts in that, but we'd love more. We'd love the feedback from you. Give us some feedback. Let us know. Please find some time out for yourself in the build up to Christmas or around Christmas. It's so important to balance and energize yourself, because you can only give energy once you've recharged yourself as well.
Yeah, what's the saying? You can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah, I like that.
You can't, so
No.
you've got to keep refilling it.
Yeah. All right, thanks very much for your time.
Cool.
It whizzes by, doesn't it?
It does.
So thanks for your support. I know Rach has been listening and watching the podcast, and we will certainly bring guests on down the time. So if there's anyone who you feel you want to add to us and we can bring in, let us know. Have a great week, and we'll catch you hopefully just before Christmas.